Welcome to video 8, Notes, Solving Literal Equations. We're on page 9 in your packet. A literal equation is an equation that contains more than one variable. We've been solving for just the x in our equations. These tend to look like formulas. Here are some examples. Go ahead and write them down. Y equals mx plus b. That's a literal equation. It's full of letters. All right. Ax plus by equals c. That's a formula for a different kind of equation. And c equals 2 pi r. That's circumference of a circle. All right. The answer is not going to be a number, but a new equation that's just been rearranged. And so you have 3 steps. So go ahead and highlight those up. You're going to identify the variable that you want to solve for. You want to isolate the variable by adding or subtracting if you can, so moving things away from that letter. And then you're going to isolate even some more, getting the letter all by itself by multiplying or dividing. So we're using the same skills that we've been using in solving. We just are not going to be combining a whole lot of terms, all right? So in this first example, the directions are important, so you always want to read the directions. So you go ahead and write these directions down. Solve for y. And so when we solve for y, I always a lot of times put an arrow at the variable that I want to solve. I want to leave that alone, get that alone. So I need to get rid of the 4x, negative 4x, excuse me. So I'm going to do the opposite. And I'm going to add 4x to both sides. Now don't put it right underneath the 5. They are not like terms, and I don't want my brain associating those. That is not a 9x, all right? This happens to be negative 7y because I'm going to cancel out the negative 4x, right? I'm moving it to the other side, and I bring this down, right? And remember to bring down the negative sign with it, the negative 7y, and I have 5 plus 4x. I need the y all by itself. I'll color that in. And so what I need to do is I need to divide everything by negative 7. All right? When I divide by negative 7, that makes this y all by itself because that makes a 1. All right? And so then I'm going to divide. I get y equals, and then my calculator, I'll divide 5 divided by negative 7, or I'll put that in alpha y equals. That turns in, I'll make sure it can't be reduced, excuse me. So this doesn't get reduced. And then it's 4 divided by negative 7, and it's negative 4/7, and I can put that negative anywhere. I can put it with the 4. I can put it a negative out in front of the fraction as well. Right? A lot of times mathematicians will put it with the numerator. So that's the answer. All right, that is the rearranged, transformed literal equation solved for y now. It's the same exact equation. It's just now got y by itself. Now we're going to do a few more examples. One more solve for y because we use this skill so much in algebra in order to be able to put our equations in our calculator. All right, we're going to be doing that a lot. So this one again says solve for y. So I draw a little arrow at the y, all right, after I've written it down, and I'm going to then move everything away from the 6y. So I need to get rid of the 10x first because it's a minus, all right, or subtracting, it's a negative 10x. I'm going to add 10x to both sides. Notice I put this 10 off to the side. I didn't put it underneath because I don't want my brain to think it's 14x. It's not. They're not like terms. This gets rid of that, and I have 10x then, and I don't have to put the plus sign because it's positive. 10x plus 4, and you could do it in the other order. You could do 4 plus 10x equals the 6y that's left. And now I need to divide everything by 6, all right? Now this is where I want you to pick up your calculator with me, all right? And I need to make sure that this gets reduced correctly. And so I'm going to reduce each fraction here. I know that this cancels out, 6 divided by 6, and my y is going to be by itself. But I need to make sure that this isn't, it needs to be, that it needs to be reduced. Let's just say that. All right, so I'm going to do alpha, y equals, and I'm going to hit the enter to get my fraction. I'm going to do 10, and I'm going to hit the down arrow, and I'm going to do a 6. Do this with me. Pick up your calculator, please, please, please. And then you just have to hit enter. And the calculator will reduce it if it can. And it can. All right. And so it is 5/3 x. All right. And then for 6, I want to know if that can be reduced. And so I hit alpha y equals again, and I hit enter. And can I reduce a 4 over a 6? A lot of us think we can, a lot of us can do these in our head, but it's great to know, just have the calculator do this kind of reduction and calculation for us. All right, and so if I hit enter, it's 2/3. So my equation is y equals, and a lot of times we put the y equals at the front of our answer, but y is by itself, 5/3 x plus 2/3. All right, turn to the next page, and we're going to do 3 more that are a little more unusual looking. And this one says, solve the linear equation for y. So go ahead and put your arrow, then we're solving for y. It gets me to think I need to keep this here, move everything away from it. So I'm going to, since 2/5 is positive, I'm going to subtract 2/5 from both sides. So 2/5 x minus 2/5 x, all right? And then I like to draw my line here and cross those out, all right? And so then I end up with 1/3 y, because I'm just bringing that down. I bring the equal sign down, I bring the negative 12 down, and then I bring down the negative 2/5 x, all right? Now I need y by itself, so I need to divide, and I'm going to divide by 1/3, which seems strange, but look at it. It's 1/3 divided by 1/3 is 1, dividing by it because that's being multiplied there. That's a fraction, it's being multiplied. And so then I'm going to do this in my calculator. So please take a moment, and in your calculator, alpha y equals again to reduce these out, all right? And so let's go over here. I'm going to click clear those out, and I'm going to get a fraction up. So alpha y equals enter, and I'm going to put a negative 12 in the top, and I'm going to go to the bottom, and I have a fraction. I have to divide by 1/3, so I'm going to do alpha y equals again, and I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to divide by 1/3. I hit the down arrow. Look at your screen to make sure you've got your, these are going in the right slots. Does that look like it? Yes, negative 12 divided by 1/3, and my answer is negative 36. All right, negative 36. And then I need to do a fraction divided by a fraction, a negative 2/5 divided by 1/3, which I can. So alpha y equals, enter, all right, and I'm going to put a fraction in the top, so alpha y equals again, and so then I have a negative 2 over 5, negative 2/5, divided by another fraction, alpha y equals, and thank you for doing this with me. I'm like, you might be like, I know how to do it, just do it. Your brain will associate the hand motion and the actual doing of this calculation, and it will stick way better. So does it look like that one? Negative 2/5 divided by 1/3. When I first looked at it, I'm like, oh, I can't divide. Yes, you can. Make your calculator, programming your calculator, and our answer is negative 6/5. And that's our answer. Negative 30, y equals, y is by itself, negative 36 minus 6/5 x. All right, and 2 more. Here we go. In the formula for perimeter of a rectangle, P equals 2 lengths, that's an L, doesn't look like it, plus 2 widths. And you can change it to make it look more like an L if that helps you. All right, solve for L. I'm going to move this up here, solve for L. Make it L. There we go. All right, and so let's do this. I'm going to move, I want the L by itself, so I'm going to move the 2W. So here we go, I'm going to take the 2W off this side. Notice again, I don't put it right under the P. So I have, and I can write it either way, P minus 2W's or negative 2W's plus a P. Because the P is positive, I put a plus. Now, what number is actually with the P? When I don't have a number there, I know that it's a 1. It's 1P. A lot of mathematicians don't put a number out in front of a variable when it's just a variable, but it's signifying 1P. And then I need to, I'm going to make this an L. Oh, I want to solve for L. I want to solve for L, so I'm going to divide everything by 2. All right, and so then I get my L all by itself. So there's the L. All right, and then I'm going to divide negative 2 divided by 2 is a positive, oh no, I'm sorry, a negative 1W. Negative 2, yep. And then I have the 1 divided by 2. I'm looking at the numbers. And so I like to write it as 1/2. I put the numeric value, half of P. So negative 1W plus half the perimeter is equal to the length. All right, so that's my answer for that. Alrighty, and one more here. Thank you for sticking with me and doing such a great job. In the formula for the surface area of a sphere, we have s equals 4 pi r squared, and we want to solve for r, which is a little unusual because it's the squares. So we're going to have to do something a little special, and I want to make sure you know how to do that. And so I rewrote it bigger so I could see it. All right, and so just rewrite it for me. And I kind of highlighted, but I can put an arrow then to that r. I need that r by itself. Now here's the thing, and I'm writing myself a note here. No add or subtract in this one. There's none, because there's no pluses or minuses. 4 times pi times r squared. That's all multiplication. All right, so I'm just going to divide first. So please write yourself a little note, whichever way you want to write it. Write yourself a note. All right, I'm going to divide by both of them at the same time. I'm getting rid of the 4 and the pi. And when I cancel those out, I'm left with an r squared. All right, and I'm left with s over 4 pi. Divided by 4 pi. Now, how do I get rid of an r? How do I get the r by itself? I don't divide by 2. My brain might want to think that, but the r squared means r times r. And so the opposite of an x squared is the square root of x. All right, and so really what we need to do is we need to square root both sides. So the square root of r squared, I'll just tell you, is just r. Right, you get that. And then we can't really break this down anymore, so this is the final answer. Under the square root symbol, I'm going to have s over 4 pi. And so this is my final answer if I have to take the square root. If I'm left with a variable squared, I just take the opposite, which is the square root. And that's my final answer. Thank you, everybody.